Hey, all work, no pleasure. I ain't here to make friends, big stepper. Hey, bad guy, Heath Ledger. Ready for wherever, I'll be front and center. Don't fly too close to the sun, your body chopped up by propellers. Came in arrogant, but left out in a stretcher. The comparison, y'all know y'all couldn't replicate it. Chilling in the desert, I'm good under pressure. Stick around, let me hold it down, look at what we found.
Welcome to the official podcast of PHP Architect. Join us to listen to the latest news and tech talk from our conferences, the magazine, and wider PHP community.
All right, you're listening to the official podcast of the PHP Architect, and this is episode 2025-0213.02.03. I'm your host, Eric Van Johnson, and with me is John Congdon.
Hello.
Podcast hey, you're back. Good to hear. This podcast focuses on all things PHP web development. We also touch on the larger PHP community and the general life of being a developer. And of course, we talk about our company, PHP Architect, the magazine, and the conference. We record every Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. If you're not here, please consider joining the live show. You can make the live show a little better by being part of our Discord channel at discord.phparch.com. And you get to participate in the live show. We do a little chatting back and forth, but more importantly, the Discord is here all week long, filled with a bunch of fantastic people from the PHP community and Sarah Goldman. The podcast is also made a little better thanks to our partners over at honeybadger.io. Honey Badger helps you deploy with confidence and be your team's DevOps hero by combining error, uptime, and performance monitoring in one platform. It's free to start. And setup takes less than a few minutes. Be the hero of your team. Suit up at honeybadger.io. More on Honey Badger a little later. If you can watch us live on YouTube, if you're not watching us live, like I said, it's great if you do because you get to be part of the show. But make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/phparch and get notifications. It helps us. I would appreciate it.
I never understand on the YouTube links why they have the @ Sometimes they have the @ sometimes they don't. Doesn't really seem to matter.
So that's a fairly new thing. So they created handles so you could @ other YouTube channels or @ people on YouTube. So whatever your YouTube channel was, like ours is /PHP Arch, is also you had the option of letting that be your @ handle too. But I agree with you. I don't use it because it's not required, and
right.
I just don't like it.
not in a URL. I don't like it. Like it makes sense when I'm commenting and I want to reach out and like you said, tag a channel or tag a person. That makes sense, but not in a URL.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I still struggle with Mastodon and their adding system. And I understand the complexity they have because everybody can have their own Mastodon server. So you can't just at a name. You have to at the name at a server. It's just irritating.
Mhm.
John.
I like how you open it up and you said the PHP Architect.
The PHP Architect.
Yeah.
What's been going on, John?
Same old, mostly. Although I was woken up way before my alarm clock, which I don't really have to use because I have kids. But the past 2 mornings before 6 a.m., phone calls. There's an issue. And I'm like, no, I thought we got past this. We don't have issues anymore. But both days, similar but different issues where routing phone numbers in from a new carrier, and I guess a handful of them weren't set up correctly. So 100 were added and like 5 didn't work. But of course, it's the way the least weighted system works. It's, oh, these phone numbers haven't been used as much as these other ones, so we're going to prioritize those. So we show those to customers to use, and then they don't work. And because I didn't understand what was happening, I was like, disable all of them. And the frustrating part is, this code has been around for over 20 years now, and there are parts of it that we don't understand anymore. Like on this table, there's a enabled, disabled column, like enabled 0 or 1. So my initial response was change all of those to 0. Yeah, that didn't work. Oh, by the way, there's another column on here that says valid 0 or 1. And that's what is used in the query. It's like, why is it not enabled? So that was yesterday. That was fun. And then this morning, a separate subset of users had a similar issue. And it was because that a different carrier was routing numbers to the wrong PBXs. And it was just like, this is not good. Luckily, it wasn't the same user. So it wasn't like people experienced issues 2 days in a row, which is really bad. That's when they start getting pissed off and canceling.
Mm.
People are usually okay with, all right, yeah, you had an issue. I get it. Don't let it happen again. But when you start having it daily, that becomes a problem. So luckily, the case here, it was just an issue for me because I'm the one getting phone calls woken up before I want to out. I'm not bowling tonight. I pre-bowled last night. So I was out late drinking. So being woken up at 5:55 or whatever it was after not going to bed till 1 o'clock because I had a little to drink. It was not.
Well, speaking of obscure things, Frank on the PHP Architect team. First thing, we didn't have a podcast last week, but congratulations to Joe Ferguson. He officially started working with us, so really been nice to have somebody.
Are you sure that's a congratulations, or is it a I'm sorry?
I'm happy because I got somebody watching my servers now. What a difference it makes too, man. Holy smokes. Like, the team has always done a really good job at pulling double duty, but honestly, it's like there's only so much they can do and things slip through the cracks. And so having Joe just in charge of the infrastructure, he's been doing a lot of auditing and gathering information and all this other stuff. But it's been a real pleasure because like we had an issue go off today, and before a developer even had a chance to kind of look at what the issue is, he'd already looked at the log files of the database and kind of narrowed down what the problem was. So that's been real like I said, just relaxing. It's just so relaxing.
The fact that you're feeling that way just less than 2 weeks in is to what he's doing.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, he actually, it's funny because, you have relationships with people outside work, even if they are professional relationships, which is, I guess, would be what I would consider my relationship with Joe was before he started working for us. Because, it's not like we went out drinking or, played ball or anything. We saw each other at conferences. And so, kind of professional, but not like work professional. And he kind of saw an ugly side of me this week that I don't know. I mean, I don't have a problem with. I know sensitive people, tend to get a little on edge. I'm not going to name names, John. John. But we were in a meeting with a vendor, and this vendor's job, they were brought on to help, quote unquote, manage the AWS environment, and I never really understood what they were bringing to the table. But our client wanted them, and I justified it as being like a just a sanity check to what we were doing. Like, it kind of felt weird that we had the keys to the kingdom and we did everything, and they just basically had to trust us. So when they wanted to bring them in, I was like, all right, that's cool. They just kind of offset or validate what we're doing or whatever. But they really didn't do a lot, to be completely frank with you. Matter of fact, Joe looked at the last time, let's say a report was generated. It was like March of 2024. It's like, yeah, nobody misses these people. But it's one of these groups that I don't like dealing with, because they always do like this hard pitch for more services. Like they want you to take on more services. And I'm very, very, very protective of my team and their time. And I don't like them being in meetings, because I remember as a developer, I didn't like being in meetings, right? Mm-hmm. So, but Joe has to get in the meeting because this is his environment. So basically, I was bringing him up to speed, or what I thought we were doing is getting him up to speed with what that relationship is and how they can interact with each other. And it wasn't. It like just automatically turned into like a sales pitch of the guy just wanted to show him the services. I'm like, no. You got to give Joe access. They're like, well, we don't have authorization to give Joe access. I'm like, what do you mean you have authorization for this meeting? Basically, they wouldn't give him access until they got authorization. I'm like, listen, I'm giving you authorization. Like, well, we really need it from this person. I'm like, this person set up this meeting, so he has implied authorization. So get him in. And don't talk to me about any services. I don't want to hear about any services until Joe gets in there and gets his head around, what we have currently. And I just kind of laid into this guy. And I felt bad because the guy just thought he was going to jump on. He was clearly like a lower level person who just wanted to do a sales pitch. Just like did not end well for him. But I got Joe in there, and of course they could, the people we were talking to, the person we were talking to couldn't get us what we needed, so they had to set up another meeting. Such a pain in the ass. But yeah, I had to let Joe know. I'm like, hey, I just don't like that.
Is it the service that starts with N?
No, R.
Oh, okay. I don't know that one.
Yeah.
All right. Thought it was the other one. But you were able to get them access, and so
yeah.
Is this a service kind of like, I know there's others out there where they manage your AWS accounts, and for some reason you do all your billing through them, and supposedly they can get you better pricing. Yeah. I never understood what they actually bring to the table other than how they get better pricing. So,
right. I don't know either. And again, the one thing that they were that I was given the impression they were going to do is work with the accounting team and say, hey, you guys have been using this many instances for the last 6 months. Make these reserved instances, cash go down. We do this. We were doing this on a fairly regular basis, but it was a lot of back and forth with, some of it is the accounting team not understanding what we're asking for, but also they have to pay the money up front. So when you do a reserved instance, you pay basically for a year of that instance running. And there's some confusion. It's like, okay, am I attaching it to this one specific instance? And if we don't keep that instance running, I have to pay for another instance. Like, no. You just pay for like 10 reserved instances. They'll take care of themselves. Like, it's whatever instances you have running. But there's some back and forth because there's an education process, and that's where I was hoping this other vendor would come in and give them some more insight of basically validating what we were saying. But I'm not sure that happened. Yeah. So and to Joe's point, he's like, if that's all they're doing, we can do that ourselves. So we get Joe. I know. Trust me. Like, the reality of it is, with the exception of if somehow they get better pricing because they have all these clients on AWS and AWS gives them some sort of discount. With the exception of that, like, I don't expect them to be able to do anything we can't do, right? I mean, they have no magic wand or anything. They can't do anything we can't do. So yeah.
Right. It's more for teams that don't have dedicated ops people.
Right.
Or you're just getting up to speed into the AWS ecosystem and trying to figure out how things piece together. And they might be able to say, oh, you might be able to leverage this service and this service from AWS to, make it all work together. But like you said, we've been in AWS for so long, we know not everything because there's so much in there, but at least enough to run the applications we need to run.
Right. Annie, good evening. Welcome to the Discord.
That's not in Discord, on YouTube.
Please yes, you're on YouTube. I'm sorry. You should be in our Discord, Annie. Discord.phparch.com. Come over and hang out with us. Sarah, long time no see, Sarah. I don't know what rock you've been hiding under. There must be a problem, though. I don't remember seeing your ticket to tech. Did you see Sarah's ticket to tech?
I did not, and I did not see a response from the company she works for when it comes to sponsorship. And I've reached out to them 3 or 4 different times, different ways. I tried LinkedIn. I've tried their contact us page. I tried making up somebody's email address to,
I mean, we're not going to call. We're not going to be Mongols, and call them out by name, because that wouldn't be nice. But I would love for them to sponsor us. We got, if you're in our Discord, Supernova, that's Joe. Make sure you say congratulations to Joe.
And come hang out with us at Tech.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Speaking of, I think I originally wanted to talk about Frank, though.
You did. That's where you started.
Yeah, I started. So Frank brought up something that it was one of those things that when he said it, like one of these obscure SQL things that when he said it, I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that being a word in SQL, but I don't remember what it does. He came across a query that we have in our data. So you were talking about old code, and that's what got me on this track. And again, we're still discovering old code that we haven't touched in a while with our monolith application. And he came up with, let me ask you this one. Do you remember what the SQL, when you add it to a query, what the SQL command having does?
Mm-hmm.
I totally couldn't remember. I'm like, wait a minute.
All the time.
Why do you use it?
Because sometimes you can't limit a query in your where clause, but you can say, hey, I'm going to add up all these numbers, or I want a sum of this, and I want the rows having a sum greater than 100, or something is null, but it's after you've done your aggregate function on it to figure out what that column is, and you just don't want to return it. So you either use having, or you have to get the entire data set back and then do that filtering in PHP.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just pre-filtering it before the data gets to your application, so you're not sending it over the wire just to discard it.
Interesting. Yeah, I can't think of a use case. I can say I don't think I've ever used it. I can say I don't think, which is something I can do, but I'm pretty sure.
But you also use Eloquent, which hides a lot of stuff. So maybe it's doing it behind the scenes. You don't even realize it.
Perhaps, yeah. Perhaps, maybe. But yeah, so yeah, he had that, pulled it out. It was actually slowing down the query, and he figured it because we didn't need it.
Yeah.
A where clause would have been fine. I think that's what he ended up replacing it with.
Yeah. So with the having, the query has done all of the work. Everything is done, and then it filters it with your having. Whereas the where clause limits what gets pulled back. So in theory, it should speed up the query as long as the indexes are correct.
Gotcha. So I got some tea for you. You want to hear the tea? Well, before we hear tea, let's say a thank you to our sponsors, Honey Badger, for their great support.
When your app breaks in production, you want to quickly understand and fix it, not sift through logs for the next hour. That's where Honey Badger comes in. Honey Badger notifies you of errors, outages, and performance issues as they occur and helps you respond instantly when your systems go down. When you need to dig deeper, Honey Badger's advanced query engine helps you reach into your logs and grab just the information you need. With error tracking, performance and uptime monitoring, log management, and support for over 10 languages, Honey Badger is the best tool to gain real-time insights into your application's health and performance. Best of all, it's free to get started, and setup takes less than 5 minutes. Be sure to bookmark honeybadger.io. That's www.honeybadger.io.
Thank you, Honey Badger.
Honey Badger.
All right, I'm gonna give you some tea because I know the client doesn't watch the podcast, but like a lot of our team does, and this is going to be surprising to you as well. I had our client called me this week, excited, and this guy is not doesn't typically get excited, right? And he calls me. He says, "Hey," we won this contract. It's a huge contract. It's something we don't do currently, and is super excited about it. I'm like, okay. And he goes, Gene, who's part of the PHP Architect team, has been working with us closely on scoping it and da-da-da. So I want him working on it, but you can't tell anybody until the ink's dry because we don't want this to get out. So I don't know. Apparently, just 4 of us or 5 of us know: the CFO, the COO, the CEO, right? Those 3, myself, and Gene. Because I needed to reach out to Gene to find out what this is about. Because I'm like, I pretty much know everything that goes on at PHP Architect. I'm not sure what you're talking about. So he was very excited. Requested this one developer to be focused on it. I'm like, that's fine. Gene's a great guy. I have no problem with that. And he's like, yeah, Gene's going to be ecstatic. He's really going to be excited about this one. I'm like, okay, I'm going to call him. So I talked to Gene. I'm like, hey, man, I'm like, you can't tell anybody on the team yet. You can't tell anybody at the client because he used to actually work for the client because I don't know who knows. And they want to get the contract signed before we just start making this common knowledge, but they won this contract. And Gene's response was, oh, shit. I'm like, is that a good all shit or a bad all shit? He goes, oh, it's going to be a lot of work.
So he was super excited, is what you're saying.
Yeah, he's super happy for this one. But we had a conversation about it, and I got more insight onto exactly what it was, and it's interesting. It's very interesting, and I'm excited to see this get implemented. But
All right, can we wrap up the show so you can tell me about this? Because now I want to know.
Oh man, it's hysterical. Yeah. Oh man, did you not go to tech last year? I did. I was there. Why?
I was being funny where I said I don't know any good NoSQL databases because I haven't seen them at conferences where I go to learn things. I haven't seen them sponsoring at conferences where I go to learn things.
That's right. Yes.
Sarah, I'm just giving you a hard time. And he was using mongrel in a way to say it without saying it.
Yeah. Trying to hint.
Trying to be funny. And failing.
No, not me. I don't fail.
Always fail.
I Scale, Southern California Linux Expo is coming up, right?
And just a couple weeks, right?
Like the first week of March, I think, or something, or March 7th. I have to actually look at the actual date.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, obviously big Linux, big open source, blah, blah, blah. And we're doing all this promoting for it on social media, which is actually kind of what I've been doing for them. And our posts started getting blocked on Facebook.
Really?
Like, what's going on? And I didn't understand. And then somebody caught on, and I guess Facebook started, quote unquote, accidentally blocking any posts about Linux as malware. And so they started taking down all these. It wasn't just us. It's like any post that mentioned Linux was getting blocked. And I was like, wait, stop doing that, please.
Especially when Linux is in the name.
So yeah, I thought that was funny. They obviously they rolled it back. They figured out what they did wrong and rolled it back, but it just was hysterical. Did you see we got one blocked this week too? I'm like, what?
Did it?
What? Yeah, I contested it. I think I don't know. It's not very clear, but
Oh no, we've had a few. I've contested quite a few a few weeks ago.
yeah,
I couldn't figure out why. Like,
yeah, like the explanation to why it's being blocked is not
right. It's very generic.
Yeah,
You don't Instagram, do you?
I do not.
I
don't use Facebook that much.
I don't either, but I was told by people, mainly my wife, that all of a sudden they were forcing you or making you follow Trump, Melania, and I think White House. And you could go you could go in and unfollow, but it was just a weird, like, it's just after all of the tech people being at the inauguration and then having that happen, it's like, seriously, you're gonna make people follow somebody? Because I don't, outside of Facebook, back when you were following, who was it? Andy, Todd, I don't even remember.
MySpace. Should I have the MySpace one where everybody followed the main MySpace guy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
We live in a weird time. I'm looking forward to the revolution. I'm sure it's gonna happen soon here. If you're not here in the US, don't come.
Hey, well, no, come to the US in May for a week, but outside of that,
yeah, our ICE team will be happy to pay for your ticket home. Apparently, huh? Oh man, yeah,
it's scary. Don't want to talk too much politics, but man,
yeah. Well, kind of along those same lines, though, our elephants are, I think, here in the U.S. just in customs.
Yep. ICE is checking them over and making sure they have their paperwork and
giving them anal probes to make sure we're not stuffing little foreign kids in them or something. Yeah.
I'm gonna send you back to where you came from, elephant.
Oh God. So hopefully, I'm starting to get nervous now. I mean, I know it's only February and we have until May, but like I'm starting to get nervous. Like it's already taken longer than it did last year to get them to where they need to be. So
Yeah. Hopefully nothing happens with the tariffs, and because it's so unclear. I think we saw a post recently where the USPS has stopped all imports because they didn't have to deal with this prior, and they're trying to figure out what they need to do.
yeah. Yep. It's a crazy. It's a crazy.
Yeah.
Let's see how it goes. I see you did a blog post, man.
I did do a blog post.
That is exciting. That's very exciting, man.
Need to do more of them, but I was researching, what's going on lately, and PHP Stand 2.0 was released.
Mm-hmm.
I know that was on the client I work on. There's somebody that does most of the PHP Stand work, so I get the benefit of just running it and seeing what I screw up versus configuring it, which is a whole nother beast into itself. But we have, if you've been following PHP Foundry in the PHP magazine, Oscar's been working through PHP Stand on this little side project, and this last January's article, he took it to level 10, which is brand new in PHP Stand 2.0.
Level 10.
Level 10. Yep.
So that's if you look on the side here, cranking PHP Storm to 10.
PHP Stand.
Yeah, PHP Stand to 10. I wanted to say 11, and John wouldn't let me.
I did not say I wouldn't
11.
let you. I did not say I wouldn't let you.
I'm like, but it's funny.
I got the reference. I said do it if you want to.
I did not, because you've been pissing me off. Hey, speaking of pissing me off, I gave him your title for this month, and I won't spoil that here, but I will spoil our new contributor to the magazine, right?
You can do that.
Yeah, Grumpy is going to be a regular contributor to the magazine again, and I am thrilled about that.
Mm-hmm.
We told him, we're like, hey, he's like, what do you want me to write about? Just don't let the people. I'll write about anything but testing. No, he didn't say that.
he pretty much said that.
and I told him, I'm like, man, I was like, people just love hearing from you. I'm like, you write about what you want to write about. So we don't know what his column like. Everybody has like a column that's kind of focused on a topic, and we try our best to make sure topics don't overlap too much. But Chris, he's a wild card. We have no idea what he's going to talk about month over month. So it's exciting. It's very exciting. Happy to have him. Chris, welcome to the magazine. Appreciate you. His first article will be published this month, February.
Yeah. And we're actually on track to hopefully get it out before the last day of the month this month.
Yeah. It'll be 2 days for the last, which is actually the last day of the month because this month is a day short, but
Yeah, whatever. It's all good.
Yeah. So, oh man, what else you got? What else you want to talk about?
I happened to see today. We have a bunch of command line tools that I run, especially for the magazine and for our business. It's how I sync things up to our accounting system. It's how the magazine gets published, and we do all sorts of scrubbing of the articles, changing it from Markdown into ICML, which is used for InDesign. And I was running my commands the last couple of days, and I'm like, why am I all of a sudden getting all these deprecations? Like everything was deprecated. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I don't remember doing it, but my Mac is now running PHP 8.4. Okay, I'm not unhappy. Things are still working, except, now I have things to clean up. And then I started looking around and realized I'm still on PHP Storm 2023 3 dot something. So I'm still, my version of PHP Storm is only good for only up to 8.3. And PHP Storm has released 2024.3, and it now has support for PHP 8.4 and a lot more fun things. Well, with PHP 8.4, it's got the property hooks, which I cannot wait to start using. The main code base I work on is still not up to 8.4, mostly because of libraries, waiting for specific libraries and tools to be up to date so that we can then, start using the new features. So support for property hooks is exciting, and the asymmetric visibility.
Cool.
And then I started looking at the array functions. And I'm sure we've talked about them before, but I didn't remember array any and array all, which
they're new, right? They're new
yeah.
in 4, yeah.
Yeah, so array find key, array any, and array all. I was trying to look at the little examples that they have and how you would use array any, but it's really, do any of the elements in my array satisfy some condition? And if so, return true. Otherwise, return false. I could see it being useful. I don't know any specific place I would use that right now, but happy to know that they are there if I need them.
Yeah, these were, I don't know if they were exactly taken from the Laravel helper classes, but this functionality has been in Laravel for a while via the helper class for arrays.
Yeah, I mean they've been part of people's helper classes for a long time.
Right, it's one of those things everybody creates them because you do them so frequently. Yeah,
it's I've written this for each 10 times already. It's crazy.
Yeah, what else is in here? Fun AI assistant.
Mine hasn't been working, and I don't know if it's because I'm on the old version of PHP Storm. So now I need to try upgrading to see if that'll work again.
Honestly, I haven't used the JetBrains AI for a while. It just wasn't bringing enough to the table for me. I thought, in the way it had been explained to me at one point, which I think is false, is I thought it was going through my project, like my PHP Storm project. I thought it was going through that and then making decisions based on that information. And it for sure was not. I don't know if it's a configuration you have to set, but for me, it wasn't. And I felt like it was getting things wrong way more than right. And I just went back to Copilot for when I needed AI assistance.
The places I used it, and then I forget why I stopped. I don't know if it was because it was competing with Copilot in places and I was getting frustrated, but I really liked it because I used the Git function. So writing my commit message.
The Git commits. Yeah. that was the one place I was using it. I've actually looked for another AI plugin to do that just because it was so pleasant, and I just haven't found one.
It's oh yeah, I forgot I made that change. That should be included in the documentation.
Yeah, that was actually a really good implementation of that. We got some debugging. Laravel ecosystem herd, PHP interpreter, and PHP Storm. Interesting. I'm not sure what a herd interpreter would do any differently than just a normal PHP interpreter, but okay, that's there now. Interesting. Pest.
Well, you would have needed to use the Docker one before, right? For herd,
right?
And it probably just takes away some of the pain points there.
Yeah, but herd uses it's installing PHP locally, so it's not doing anything. It's not like Docker where it's in its own container. It's
local.
Yeah, it's host. It's just pointing it to the right one. I don't know. Maybe it does. I don't know. I haven't tried it, so maybe it figures something out. I'm not sure.
Maybe that's why I'm on PHP 8.4 now. maybe Herd upgraded and I didn't know that.
Yeah, version control system. I don't use PHP Storm for my version control. I should try to get back to that. Database tools, front end stuff.
I
Interesting.
use the shelving and unshelving a lot versus Git stashing,
Mm.
and it works well for me, and it's just the way I do it. My workflow.
Interesting. Color preview for Tailwind. I must have had a plugin for this because I've had this for a while. The color preview for Tailwind colors.
Mhm.
I must have a Tailwind plugin or something I'm using. Yeah, cool stuff. Along these same lines, recently, last week, I guess, JetBrains released their State of PHP for 2024, and nothing too surprising here. Yeah, I mean it's all pretty much the same stuff, except for the age. The age range for PHP developers seems to be ticking up a little bit. I don't remember being 30 to 34 before, but and even that's unfortunately young. Man, I'm getting in the minority. Jesus, I need to find another career, man. I should not be either that or I need to start taking these surveys and getting my stuff up there. Oh, geez, man. There's still some 5.6 out there. 12%. How does 5.6 go up between 2023 and 2024? Just more people taking the survey, I guess. But my God, what is wrong with people? Why are you doing that to yourself? Man. Yeah. All the normal stuff. It looks like
that is weird that it went up.
Yeah, right? I mean 2%. Not huge, but enough. It would it dropped 2% and went back up 2%. So the people from 2020 just took the survey again in 2024. Frameworks, nothing super surprising here. Pretty much all the same. Everybody's kind of leveled out with a percentage of frameworks. I still say that Laravel of everything out there, like Symfony, even my old-time favorite of Cake PHP, like they're not getting new developers at the rate Laravel gets new developers. Like if somebody is trying to learn a framework in PHP, chances are they're learning Laravel. They're not doing Symfony or anything like that. So I still think Laravel. I'm a little surprised this stayed I'm actually very surprised it stayed as flat as it has for the last 3 years. Mm-hmm. Because I always think that the new developers coming into PHP who are doing framework developing with frameworks, are gravitating towards Laravel. So I'm kind of surprised that this has stayed as consistent as it has, but it has.
I wonder if there will be a breaking point for that, because I'm sure back in like the 2010s, 2011, Zen was on top of the world, and
yeah,
was as well. So I wonder where that breaking point, where is it going to be a new framework that comes on the scene that is better, or is it Taylor totally screwing it up, which I doubt he's going to do.
I mean, I think that the latter would be more to happen. Not Taylor screwing it up, but Taylor stepping away, and people getting. So here's the thing: like the kind of warning I give people who rave about Laravel, which there's a lot to rave about Laravel, and I've been a fan of Laravel for a long time, and I'm going to get to why in a second. But WordPress was that solution for so long in the PHP community. Like WordPress was such the juggernaut of nothing is better than WordPress, and even still today, it's at 23%. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. But like, yeah, everybody kind of falls off, right? Whether, for whatever reason. Now, the thing I think Laravel has going for it, well, a couple things. Like I said before, they're very open to new developers and trying to make things easier for new developers. They're not really, they just make that pain point of learning a framework for a new developer as simple as possible. And I think that's been like the thing that has kept them on this trajectory for a very long time. But the other thing they do, and I credit a lot of this to Taylor, is they don't like they tried long-term support, right? They tried LTSs, but it's not the nature of the Laravel ecosystem. It's keep moving forward, keep moving forward. And Taylor is very quick to adopt new anything. Like if it makes sense. I mean, he just doesn't throw everything into his framework, but like, again, the thing that kind of started him down this path is he was first there with Composer. He was first there with the standards, the PSRs. I mean, he was on board, and he has no problem, deprecating stuff and straight up breaking things. That's been a criticism of ours for a long time. Is he doesn't deprecate long enough. Like he'll turn around and break something from one major release to another. Sometimes not even a major release. I mean, sometimes he was doing it in minor releases, but he's
better at that.
Yeah, he's gotten better at that. So that's the thing. Now that particular aspect of it might slow down because he's got, I don't know if it's venture capital or whatever it is, but he's got funding now for Laravel, and he's building a lot of stuff that's very dependent on the framework. So as his little business grows with Laravel, I think that slows down a little bit. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't see it changing anytime soon. But eventually something will happen. Something will knock it off its pedestal and take its place.
Mm-hmm.
What's
with their use of a bright purple and a dark purple? I'm looking through. It's like, which editor or IDE do you use the most for PHP development? It's like bright purple for them and dark purple for VS Code and pink for Vim. It's like, why?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's their colors, right? I mean, they're just trying to stick with their branding colors.
I guess it's just when you have that stark contrast, it's like,
okay, so
that just
you're triggering me because you brought me down to IDEs used and like Vim 1%. I'm calling bullshit. I'm saying Vim people who use Vim don't take surveys. PHP Storm. And like to put 0%, like that's never happened. Come on.
But they're not doing like PHP Storm with the Vim plugin, right? Because
that's a good question, right?
Right. Yeah, because honestly, I don't know that I would still be using it if I didn't have that plugin available to me.
That's Vim Motions, at least. Yeah, that's valid. That would be an interesting thing to see in the survey, to see what do they have plugins in here? Like what plugins are popular? So first thing, this is me, 1%. Don't do that. See, IDEs. Do you use PHP Storm? And of course, all these are going to be skewed heavily for PHP Storm because it's JetBrains survey, right? So people taking the survey obviously are familiar with JetBrains stuff. So yeah, that's going to be heavily skewed towards them. Although, wow, it does say more WordPress developers use VS Code than PHP Storm. I don't know why that would be, but that seems to be a thing. I would love to see debuggers dump value debugging and
that Laravel one kind of makes sense with exactly what you were saying. Newer developers coming in are gonna, they're gonna go to VS Code first. If you're not coding professionally, if you're not making money as a developer, you're probably gonna go VS Code more than PHP Storm. But then it's also one of those things where now you have the habit of using the free tool, and now you are making money with it, but you're so comfortable you keep using it, and you don't understand the difference between VS Code and PHP Storm.
Yeah.
which I can't say I know the difference because I don't use VS Code.
I was going to say, I honestly, like obviously, if I didn't have PHP Storm, I definitely would probably go back to just using straight up NeoVim. I'm really, I'm probably the happiest I've ever been with my NeoVim configuration, even dating way back to when I first started using Vim. I'm very happy. There's a couple of pain points in it that I wish I could get worked out, but pretty happy with it. But yeah, I honestly have not touched VS Code in so long. I couldn't even talk about it. Like I have no idea the good, the bad, and the ugly with VS Code anymore. But it's still out there. I mean, tons of people use it. Quality to CS Fixture, that makes sense. Stan makes sense. Good. Yeah, this all makes sense. AI. Wow. Yeah, speaking of AI, JetBrains AI is pretty low on this chart, surprisingly. I'm surprised it's this low. Yeah, that's wow. Okay. Well, that's credit. Give them credit for doing that. What's this? What do you hiding about you? Oh, we're talking. Okay, JetBrains. I know this is not meant to be a JetBrain survey, but I would freaking love to see what plugins people use with PHP Storm and how high up them ranks, because it probably doesn't rank as high as I think it should because people don't use it. But yeah,
but it would also give you an idea of maybe plugins you're not using that maybe you should be.
Right. And I actually use a couple paid plugins. I use the Laravel Idea one, which I forget. I mean, it's like $8 a year or something to use that one. And I'd be curious to see paid plugins and free plugins, and what are the top paid plugins, what are the top free plugins. If anybody knows of a survey for that, I'm sure they must have done this before. Point me to it. We'll talk about it next week for sure.
I'm sure.
Yeah, I love that stuff. I love numbers. I love seeing surveys and what people are doing.
So you're the people that make YouTubers go the top 10 this and the top 9 that, and
I'm also the guy that never takes the surveys either because I hate them. But yeah.
Yep.
What's Joe say? VS Code versus PHP Storm is still pretty much PHP Storm configures nearly everything, where VS Code makes you bring everything. Yeah, I mean VS Code is still like Vim, right? It's not. JetBrains has targeted IDEs for a different language, which has always been their strength. That's why we say if you make money doing PHP development, you should invest in PHP Storm. It's worth the money. Whereas VS Code, much like Vim, you have to specialize it for whatever you want it. So it's a great general tool, and it's strong in just about every language you could think of, but you have to add the right language servers, the right plugins, or whatever that is. That's always been kind of I depending on where you stand. It's not really a drawback. It's just it's the biggest differentiator between VS Code and JetBrains products.
Right. People will point out how fast VS Code is, vanilla, but once you add in all the plugins, it's
right.
It's like
exactly. It's exactly correct. Yeah.
Another new thing on PHP.net, and I don't know when they added this. I think it was last year. You can now run your PHP in the browser thanks to the WebAssembly. So if you go to php.net, like they have the erase slice link there, you can actually change the code in that little code block up there, hit run code, and see the output below.
Yeah. Yeah, this is fun. I believe we talked about this before. This is pretty cool.
We probably did, but I forgot about it, and then I saw it again today. I was like, that could be very useful.
Yeah, I saw this in a tweet. I think Derek did the tweet, and again, it was very similar to this, where he was talking about the function and mentioned running it. And like, wait a minute, what? Yeah, this is very cool. I don't think I really don't think the people who work on the website get enough credit. I wish, but yeah, I mean, like the whole website has been not recently updated, but updated like within the last couple of years, where it looks a lot nicer, just as a landing page in general. But yeah, like you said, the stuff that they're doing inside the documentation has been just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
That being able to run the commands, man, huge. It's everywhere now. So yeah, yeah. Man, good God, I remember how much time I used to spend on this site, just going through like when you're learning PHP and like just going through and finding all the different commands you could use. And oh man, God, this is fun. I introduced my wife to Web Archive. I've got why she oh yeah. Talking about the craziness that's going on in our government, and they started removing a bunch of stuff from government websites that people disagree with. So somebody had gone into Web Archive and grabbed all this information, is now posting it on their a different site that they maintain. And I'm like, oh yeah. This is the thing. I took her back to our like back in the day. We used to have a family website. When the kids were like really small. Took her back to that. I love that, man. What are you showing me here?
Great.
What are you doing, John? We're not giving discounts anymore.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not doing anything. But we do have a conference coming up, and very excited about that. We have. We're still waiting on a couple of slots that we haven't filled with speakers. So if you want to sponsor the conference and have a conference speaking slot, let us know.
Yeah. I fixed the blog, by the way, John. The blog is fixed. So it
Oh,
looks
good.
easier.
The-
Much nicer. Thanks for pointing that out to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was a CSS change that broke this page, because I'm like, man, it's so hard to read. What's going on?
Yeah.
How hard was it to fix the CSS? Because I didn't even go look at it. I just realized what was happening.
It wasn't. It was actually nothing to fix. If you're not aware, that the blog that shows up on the conference website is actually the same blog that shows up on PHP Tech TV over here, and Tech TV looked fine. I'm like, God, why does it look fine here but not on the conference blog? And I kept going back, and eventually I reached out to John. I'm like, what are you seeing differently? He's like, oh, well, this is being overwritten. He mentioned some headers were being written on the conference site.
H2 and P tags, and
Yeah. So it was actually, I had a Tailwind plugin on the Tech TV site that I didn't have on the conference website that is specifically for formatting blog posts. And I'm like, oh shit, I didn't add this to the conference website. So I added it, and it started working perfectly. I didn't actually have to make any changes at all.
good.
Yeah. Tailwind actually does rock. I do enjoy Tailwind very much. But yeah, looks good now. Sorry for anybody who might have looked at the blog before then. How many spots do we have open, John? Oh, do we have our new speaker in there yet? Come on. Tessa.
We gotta ping her again. Say, hey, we need this on
Come
here.
on. How am I supposed to talk about these people and they don't? All right, so both keynotes are taken. Very excited about the keynotes. Super excited about the keynotes. I think we mentioned this. Who it was last time? Tessa. I forget.
Riesel.
Yeah. So really excited about that. Are you sure we have spots open? Oh yeah, right there's one.
Oh, and I haven't moved Molly's to the closing keynote.
So that's all. We just have one spot, John. Huh?
Oh.
We have one open spot. So
all right, that's a sponsor slot.
that's a sponsor slot.
Come
We
and
do
get
have
it.
we do have a new sponsor on here. Where are the sponsors? Here we go. Here you go. WP concert. I can't say the word.
Concierge.
Con,
Con-
say it.
Concierge.
Concierge. Yeah. Yes, they're here, and we have like 2 more that we're so close. We just need them to send us the money, really, right? We sent the invoice.
Yep.
Yeah. So we can't talk about them yet. But yeah, we're all excited about it. Oh! Can I make you look bad, John?
Of course. I already looked at, so it's all good.
So, Corey Lint helped us last year with the conference, specifically social media stuff, and she's helping us again this year. Huge help. I really like working with her. She's such a positive person. And she reached out to me. She goes, "Hey, I wanted to make a change to the blog post, but it's saying I don't have permission." I'm like, "Wow, that's weird. Like, did I not give you edit permission? Like, I maybe I just gave you the permission to create a blog post, but not edit it." So I go in and look at it. I'm like, "No, you have edit permission." I'm like, "I don't know what's going on here, Corey. Let me figure it out." And I take a little while to figure it out, and I noticed like her UUID is different in the user table than what it says had posted the blog post. And I just happened to remember that she had bought her ticket that week. And I'm like, that's weird. I'm like, why is her UUID different? And I'm thinking about it. I'm like, oh, shoot. And I tell her, I'm like, I don't know. Something's messed up. Your UUID is different. I fixed it. You should be good now. And I look at the code. And the webhook that comes from the system that you purchased the tickets for had a line of code in it that it has a creator update statement. And in that creator update statement, it was always updating the UUID. And I'm like, shit. And I felt bad. I'm like, I fucked this up. And initially I was super concerned about it because the way we have it is when you buy a ticket, a physical ticket or a virtual ticket, when you buy a ticket, you have access to the previous conferences. So I'm like, shit, that means everybody who bought a ticket this year who had previously bought a ticket, their UUIDs don't match up anymore. So they're not associated to that conference. But then I'm like, oh, that's right. That's not a problem. Like, and this is why we never noticed it, because the way the code works, it says, okay, what's the last conference that they have a ticket for? Give them access to any conference before then. So that's always worked. For the posting to the blog, it always worked for John and I because the logic says the person has to own the post, or they have to be an admin on the site. And John and I are admins on the site. So even though our UUIDs were changing, we still could post and edit and everything to the blog. And it wasn't until Corey did it that I noticed it. So I told Corey, I'm like, I'm sorry, I screwed up the code. I have this creator update, and apparently I don't know why I did it, but I have a UUID being created here, even though in the model, so this is a Laravel app, in the model, it says, hey, when you're creating a new user, create a UUID for them. So I don't know why I had put it in this webhook. And so she's, it's all right. People make these mistakes, blah, blah, blah. Well, speaking of PHP Storm and PHP Storm plugins, actually, it wasn't even PHP Storm. It was in Vim. I have the same plugin in Vim that I have in the store where it does the get blame in line with the line of code. So I went in there and I had removed it initially. I'm like, whatever, take care of it and took it out. And then I'm like, wait a second. I went back and looked at the code again, and I pulled it up, and next to the little line of code, it said John Cogden. I'm like, son of a bitch!
I don't Laravel very often, and when I do it badly.
So, like, this is a big deal for me to be able to have this over John. It was, I was going to fall on that sword because, like, I just immediately, and it was funny because even when I was like taking the blame for it, which I was fine doing, but I'm like, I don't even remember making this webhook. Like, I don't even remember doing that piece of it.
But also, to your defense, you're also used to me not working on it either. So
this is true. Yeah, that's very true. Very true. So that was that carried me through for a couple of weeks. I took a screenshot and I'm going to frame it and just put it over my desk. I can remember. John makes mistakes every now and then.
A whole lot. Not just once in a while.
All right. We're running low on time here. You got anything else you want to touch on?
Nope. We'll save the rest for another day.
Cool. Very cool. So, yeah, magazine is on schedule to probably not release this week, but probably next week for sure. I feel confident we're going to have...
No, don't be confident because I'm gone next week.
You're gone next week?
I think it's next week. Oh, by the way, I'm not going to be here for a show next week.
I was saying, do we have a show next week? You weren't here last week. You're the reason why you didn't have a show last week.
I know.
Person.
So next week
likes you.
Next week is ski week, although it's not called ski week for reasons I don't know. But our school district does a ski week. All the schools close for President's Week or the week of President's Day, and we have a family trip planned. So I will be on the road in the middle of nowhere. No cell service, cannot be on the podcast.
Okay. Well,
so it looks like you and Joe got it next week.
Explain. I love this story, by the way, because ski week is not Shokum's current wife. She's on board. She understands ski week. She knows what ski week is. Ski week is not a normal holiday here in the U.S., but in Southern California, we're in a very unique area in Southern California where you can go skiing. Like, literally, if you want to, within a couple hours of San Diego, you could technically go skiing. The problem, so the school district that John's kids are in and my kids were in, they noticed that around the same time of year, absentees went through the roof. And it was these families who lived in Southern California who wanted to go skiing before the ski season was over, right? Before all the snow started melting and everything. So these families would just skip school and go. So the school district's like, fuck it, we'll just give them the week off. I forget. I don't know what they officially call it anymore, but we've always called it ski week. Everybody knows what ski week is.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a week. They just gave the kids off to go skiing.
It's like, we know you're going to have spring break in like a month, but here you go.
Yeah. I love it. And it's funny because we weren't skiers, but we've gone a few times. It's like you go up there and you run into all the people from your neighborhood. It's like, wait, what are you doing here? It's like the same thing you're doing here. It's great.
Yep.
I keep telling the wife, we have Big Bear, which is probably the nicest, closest ski place to where John and I live. I would consider to be Big Bear. I keep trying to convince the wife. I'm like, we should really just buy a cabin. You know what we should do? We should buy a cabin up there. Let's just get just a small cabin up there. She hasn't.
Yes, you should.
I haven't broken her on that yet, but I stand by it. I want a cabin. Doesn't have to be big. 3 or 4 bedrooms is all. Jacuzzi, indoor pool. That's all I'm asking. I don't think it's too much.
Game room, pool table.
Yeah. View of the lake, just the simple things, the simplest things. All right,
let's wrap this one up.
I think that's going to do it for this week's show. Thanks for everybody for hanging out with us.
Yes,
next week. What?
I said yes, thank you.
Yeah.
For listening.
Next week, it's going to be a toss-up. I don't know. I really liked having last week off, but I get like twitchy if I don't podcast more than 3 times a month. So we'll see how it goes. I might pull somebody else in on this one. You never know. All right. Until then, maybe in a show next week, maybe not. If not, we'll be back the following week. Take it easy.
Bye.
This has been PHP Podcast, the official podcast of PHP Architect, the industry's leading tech magazine and publisher, focused on PHP and web development. Subscribe today at phparch.com to see what the leaders in the community and industry are talking about.